So we're still on Leicester Square in London, but on a different location, on Jade's, where we find Phil Hellmuth. Sitting here signing books and so on. How are you, Phil?
I'm doing fantastic. And by the way, this book, which you guys promoted for me last year, is now out on Apple, Amazon Kindle. You can buy it all over the place. You can buy it by the chapter.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
That's pretty unique. A new idea?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, we split it up into chapters. So you have Ivy's chapter in here is pretty amazing. My chapter's kind of cool. Negranyo's is really nice. So some great chapters in here.
Right. We did a pretty extensive interview last year for 1 hour. You can find them on PokerJube, by the way. So how has the last year been for you?
I can't complain. I didn't win a bracelet, so I'm not happy about that. But I took December and January off from poker. Didn't play much, and then I decided that it was time to rededicate myself to poker, to work really hard. So I started working really hard, playing a lot of online, brushing up on every game. I wanted ready for the 8-game mix. And then I final tabled the Bay 101. And I had the chip lead for 3 days straight. And I took a bad beat on the river for all the chips. To the fans that saw that, after the card came off, I did shake everybody's hands, but I collapsed in the corner, which they showed,
What happened there?
I had 2 queens, and the other guy had ace-jack, and we put in 800,000 each, and the river was an ace. Kind of brutal.
When you collapsed, what happened with you? Did you collapse? Did you faint?
I wanted to make sure that I handled myself like a man. So I shook everybody's hands, wished them all good luck, and then I left. But then all of a sudden, as I'm leaving, I'm like, man, this just hurts so much, I'm just in such pain that I just kind of fell down to my knees, down to my hands and knees like this. And I was down for 45 seconds, and I suddenly realized that every camera in the place was on me. But I was in the corner. Every camera's not supposed to be on me.
No, it should be on the table, right?
And I'm like, oh, God. Now you have to stand up, man up, and go do an interview.
Did you get a lot of needling for that, or a lot of comments, of course?
Well, it was entertaining. It wasn't intentional. I didn't think of it. It's just, boom, I just fell, Sometimes when I've had a bad beat, I fall on the ground. It's happened to me 12 times in my life or something, and so...
Is it like a blackout in a way?
It was just
too strong for you?
It was just how could you play perfectly for 4 days straight and get this kid to put all of his money in so bad to be all in one time in 4 days? How could you get punished? It's not fair. It's not right. It's not justice, It's I didn't deserve it, and so I went down, and it was sad, but...
It's always very interesting to when people look at you and thinking maybe that you are making something up or doing it for the show, but that is 100% natural you, isn't it?
It really is just natural me, and that's just, it's just the way I am. I'm not trying to...
Have you ever considered really trying really hard not to let this come out like it does, or you just like to be yourself?
Well, I tried. I did it. I wasn't bad to anybody. I didn't get upset with anybody. I shook everybody's hands. In fact, after I went down, I went to get my money, and I had to wait for 10 minutes, and I signed all the autographs. I was really depressed. Signed all the autographs, smiled the whole time, and they called me back to the stage, and I was like, oh my God, it's the Bay 101. I have to sign the shirt.
Yeah, right.
For the I Busted Phil Hellmuth shirt for the kid who put the horrible beat on me. And I just kind of finally I smiled at the absurdity of it all. I thought, come on, Phil, be a man. And I walked up there and I smiled and I shook everybody's hands again. And they gave me a standing ovation in the crowd, really loud. And I wished them good luck and signed it good luck. And they gave me another standing ovation in the crowd, and then I left. So, handled myself perfectly, which I've done almost all year. So, that's important for me as a person to not get so upset, to set a better example.
Right. I mean, we see some. We talked about that quite a lot last year about the idiot thing and all that. Have you? Will that happen again? Could you say that that would probably not happen again?
All year long, it hasn't happened. Not one time in 2011. 2010. Not one time in 2010 did it happen. Will I lose it in 2011? Maybe. Maybe I'll lose it again by the end of the year. I don't know. I'm trying really hard. It's just I kind of have once your mindset is changed to I'm not going to get upset.
Right.
Then it's easier to form a habit of not being upset.
But it demands quite a lot of work in advance, right? Like you have to focus a little bit about that, right?
Yeah, but it becomes easier.
Yeah.
The less you act that way, the easier it becomes to not act that way.
Right. Do you have some sort of mental coach or like someone you talk to?
I did work with Sam Chauhan, that helped. But I was the one that decided to change my behavior at the table, not him. I don't think he cared about that. That was my idea. And so Sam's been good, though. I mean, he helps me think positively, which I'm great at anyway. So, but he's been helpful to me, absolutely.
Right. And as you said, you started the year by really trying to become better because that's been the issue. He only wins the limit hold'em, no limit hold'em bracelets. Is that like a really big goal for you to win another bracelet than no limit hold'em?
I've been close lots of times.
I know.
Lots of times. So
you bubbled the bracelet last year, right? So to speak, didn't you?
And then, Omaha 8 or better, I was down there deep a bunch.
Right.
So I found a new way to play Omaha pot limit in a tournament and Omaha 8 or better pot limit in a tournament. And all of a sudden I found myself deep every one of those events. So I feel like I'm going to win an Omaha 8 or better tournament, pot limit for sure, or a limit. I've been down there a ton on limit anyway. But I feel like I'm going to get a pot limit Omaha 8 or better. And now I think I'm going to get pot limit Omaha high only. I've been down there to 4 or 5 final tables of the series, but now I've gotten even better. So I worked really hard. But the problem is I only played those games 3 or 4 times a year.
Right.
And then I'd expect to go in and win. I was so far behind everybody.
Right. Who
But
plays
now-
it more or less every week, right?
Every day,
Every
a lot
day.
of these kids.
Right.
So I started playing these games all the time, 5 times a week. Omaha 8 or better, pot limit Omaha. All of these games. And all of a sudden, all the knowledge I had came back very quickly. So that was good.
Do you think on the same level that you lose strength or development in no limit hold'em? You know what I mean?
I don't think so, but I think you can be excellent at a few games.
Right.
Look at the tennis players, that have won every major. And Phil Ivey's won about every different kind of bracelet, but he's never won a Hold'em bracelet. He has the opposite problem of me.
Right.
He has 8 bracelets not in Hold'em.
Right.
I have 11 bracelets all in Hold'em.
Actually, I've done quite a few interviews on PokerTube with big names, and somehow, usually we end up talking about you. Now, for the last 3 interviews, Tony G, Barry Greenstein, and Daniel Negreanu, we've been talking about you a bit. Now, what's your thought on Daniel Negreanu, for example?
Well, what did he say about me this time?
Well, they more or less say the same. Of course, Tony would go a little bit further, but he still loves you, They all say you have your things on the table, but you're a really nice guy outside the table. What do you think of that?
I think that's probably true. I think that Barry Greenstein, I've always really liked Barry Greenstein. Always. And I think he was probably a little bit too critical of me in some areas in the past, but I think I've always liked Barry. I mean, it's just kind of he's a poker player, and he's not out there all the time. I mean, I think that he underrated me as a player in 05 and 06. But I always liked Barry.
And actually, I had a pretty interesting interview, a rare interview with Chris Bjorin. Wow. I mean, he rarely does it, and he's from my country, Sweden. And we talked a little bit about you as well, and he really likes you as well. What do you think of Chris?
I love Chris Bjorn.
Right.
I love him. The other day I was buying into a tournament, right? And I was buying in for pound, I had dollars or whatever. He walked up to me and handed me 8,000 pounds of chips. Said, "Here you go, Phil." No, wait, he gave me 10,000 pounds he handed me in chips.
Why?
I don't know. He just handed it to me and left. I mean, obviously, I think he wants the money back in Vegas or whatever. But I mean, he didn't give it to me. But I mean, but that's someone that has complete trust and faith in me. Just boom. It was interesting that he did that. But I was really rooting for him. I've always rooted for Chris, and he had phenomenal. I mean, he made it down there in the top 10 2 tournaments in a row.
I know.
And he's such a phenomenal player, and he's so steady and he's so consistent. And I just feel like I'd like to see him win more. But I love Chris Bjorn. I could not imagine a negative thing to say about him. Nothing.
No, but I mean, not that many people know much about him, and he also said he was more or less out there when you started your career, right? And he's been there all the way.
Yeah. I mean, I saw Chris last night, and I talked to him with him last night, and yeah, I mean, he's someone that was there at the beginning.
Really?
Oh, man, I mean, when I started playing poker in 88, 87, I mean, I started seeing him in 89, at 90. I mean, I believe he was with me in Malta in 1988.
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
I mean, so Chris I've known just forever. Everybody's always loved Chris.
Yeah. Now, is this one of the key things why...
I have a story.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, my story, my Chris Bjorn story. So here's my story. He doesn't like it when someone else pays for dinner.
I know.
So when you go out with for dinner, if you pay, he'll actually be really mad because he feels like it makes him unlucky. So if I go to dinner with him, I'll let him pay. But once or twice, I snuck back to the waiter in the kitchen to pay, and he was waiting for the bill, and I'm like, oh, it's already paid. He's really mad. So he said, I will never go to dinner with you again unless you let me pay. I said, all right.
And then he has a pretty good taste for food as well, right?
He really does, yeah. He eats well.
Right.
Drinks very nice wine.
Yeah. I mean, these things, these other guys and personalities in poker, is this what makes poker so great and for you to have a good life playing poker, you think?
Absolutely. And Tony G's out there a little bit. But Tony G in his heart loves me. I know this. Daniel Negreanu in his heart loves me. But Daniel's probably my biggest critic. But I think Daniel wants me to be a professional poker player, wants me to dedicate myself, wants me to do better.
Right.
So I think that the reason, so in his mind, if he sees me not trying my hardest, then he'll write something negative about me, But I really believe that he just wants me. I think that Daniel knows that if I win, it's good for poker. It's good for him. And I think he's rooting for me. So, and Crispy, Tony G's rooting for me too. So, but they happen to be two of my biggest critics.
Yeah. In the last interview I had with Tony, we were talking about you, and of course, you know how he goes. And he said, well, I would like to take care of him. I would like to offer him some mental assistance and stuff like that. Give something back to Tony.
No comment.
All right. Excellent. Phil, we should leave you for the next guy, and it was really nice talking to you again, and good luck in the future.
All right, thanks.